If we do not unite to fight this enemy, our world will perish.
We are here to talk about the movie WARCRAFT, or WARCRAFT: The Beginning, as the kind of subtitle showed, at least at my showing of the movie, although it's not listed as that on IMDb. Anyway, this one is directed by Duncan Jones, who previously directed Moon and is of course the son of the late David Bowie. Now this one is based off a very popular online computer game, which is probably has one of the kind of the biggest audiences going for computer games basically. And the story here basically is almost a prequel to the game as far as I understand it. I'll prefix this by saying I've never played Warcraft. I've worked in the game industry for a while, so I'm obviously aware of it, but I've never actually played it myself. So I'm going in from as a fan of cinema and a kind of action and fantasy films, but not necessarily a fan of the actual game itself. And I think that's going to be an important distinction, though, because I do feel that if you're a fan of the game, there is definitely more here for fans of the game than if the more casual fan. So basically the story here focuses on the first meeting between the orcs and the humans, and the kind of the erupting conflict, as basically the orcs are brought through to kind of like the human world through a kind of magical portal, and obviously that's pretty much the crux of the story. We have the initial conflict and the kind of the final battle basically between these kind of two forces, and the kind of the interplay. We get to know characters from both sides, which is quite good. So that the actual one thing I did like about this film is the fact that the point of view isn't purely from the human side. You actually do get, and I will actually say, better characterization on some of the orcs than you do on the humans. So I quite like some of the strengths of this film. Other strengths of this film, I would say, it is visually stunning. I didn't think the special effects look that incredible in the trailers that I saw, but seeing it in the film and seeing especially the orcs, the way their kind of the faces moved and stuff like that, they did come across as kind of quite realistic, and you kind of buy into them. And obviously, you kind of forget that you're watching kind of CGI images for the most part. I do think as we head towards the end of the film, it gets into a little bit of over bloated CGI-ness as we see other kind of like beings come into the fray, shall we say, and I felt that it kind of lost a bit of the kind of the goodwill, if you like, and the believability of the CGI. But for the most part, I thought the CGI was quite good, and I have to say I really did like some of the orc characters, especially. I thought that they were particularly the kind of the most well-drawn sort of characters in the whole film. Although I do have an issue that this is very mildly spoilerish, but I'll come on to in just a minute. The downsides for me, this film looks great, but I felt the plot was severely lacking. The plot feels so rushed, and this maybe is where, if you're a fan of the game, you'll kind of get a bit more from it. But for me, it just some of it just didn't make sense. It seemed very kind of rushed and sometimes sort of convoluted, basically. And there just seemed to be leaps in logic. And I have to say, the other thing that kind of goes hand in hand with the story is the character motivations, with the exception of the kind of the main orc and his wife, basically. Those two I thought did get a good characterizations, although I have another issue with him. But all the rest, particularly the human characters, seem so wafer thin, basically wafer thin characterization. And unfortunately, you just didn't buy anyone's motivation. You didn't understand where certain people were coming from, and the kind of the plot kind of flip flops between scenes. And at one point, someone said they're going to do something, and then the next scene they're literally doing the thing that they weren't going to do. Said they were going to do. For example, there's a scene where the king, played by Dominic Cooper, said he's not going to attack the orcs. He's basically going to defend these certain areas, and he's disagreeing with Travis Fimmel's character. And the next scene, he's attacking the orcs, and he's throwing Travis Fimmel in jail. Don't understand. The other issue I have with it is the kind of the half-breed orc, the kind of like just basically we have an orc character who appears to be a cross between an orc and a human, but we're never giving any context about what's happened there. I mean, these orcs are big, creatures. I don't see how that's happened, and considering these guys have only just come onto it, I don't see how we've got a half orc. So I didn't get that, to be honest with you. We're not giving any kind of explanation about how that's actually come to be. And this is going to go into somewhat very, very, very mild spoilerish territories, but it's pretty much, you've seen everything on the trailers that I'm going to talk about, but I'm just going to give that warning anyway. Her character is, to me, I didn't get where they were going with that one, because she gets captured fairly early on in the film, and you kind of see that in the trailers, like I say. But they seem to trust her really quickly. The humans seem to trust this kind of half orc really quickly and kind of bring her right in front of the king, and that just seems stupid to me. This is why I'm getting this film seems so rushed. And her motivations as well, and the decisions that she's making, just seemed like to come out of nowhere to me. The other thing I want to talk about as well that's kind of bothered me on the kind of the character side, like I've said, I really liked the main orc character. His name is Duratan, and he's played by Tony Kebbell, who of course played many motion capture roles. He's becoming Andy Serkis light to this point. But even though he's the main character, his actions have little to no influence on the actual film. You could take him out of the film and it would pretty much play out exactly the same way. So he has very little bearing on the actual plot itself. So I didn't see why he was the main character on the orc side, because he has literally very little to do with anything, if I'm honest, in my opinion. Like I said, the CGI sometimes towards the end gets a little bit over the top, and I don't know. This film looks good, but I don't know. Just the character just seems so one-dimensional, unfortunately, and so like thinly sketched. And I'm gonna say I was a little bit disappointed with this film. I'd heard it had some kind of like mixed reviews, and I kind of wanted to like this film. I like fantasy films, and unfortunately it kind of fell short on the storytelling side. Visually, it's fantastic, however. So if you're just wanting a kind of visual treat, if you are looking for obviously Easter eggs for the game, I'm assuming there's a lot here, because it just seemed like there was. They were kind of mentioning things that seemed like they would be from the game in various locations and stuff like that, and they keep showing this sword, which I'm assuming is a big deal in this game. And you know, you're going to get more from it, I feel. It's some good battle scenes. I kind of liked the aesthetics. I liked the kind of the armor and everything like that. But story-wise, it fell short for me big time. So I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What do you think? Leave him a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.